Good evening, professionals. In our ninth corporate law webinar series, we have started our discussions to understand together the new provisions of the labor code. To begin with, out of the four codes, we have started reading together and understanding the comparison between the current provision vis-a-vis the erstwhile provisions in the old acts for the various labor legislations. And today we are going to continue our discussions on IRC, the Industrial Relations Code. Sincere thanks to Aishwarya for this presentation. Various legends for our reference. In IRC, we are going to discuss about the change in the condition of service. If there is a worker, there is a change in the condition of service, what is the obligation of the employer to be reported? We are going to see. The change is as enshrined in the relevant schedule, the third schedule. And while we compare this with the old provision, to our surprise, there is no change in this provision except for the change in the number. Previously, it was placed in the fourth schedule in Industrial Disputes Act 1947, and now it is in the third schedule. So that is the only difference. But for the change in the condition of services has not undergone any significant change in the code. Reference of disputes to arbitration. Here again, we will see what are the voluntary references which you could make to this particular arbitration channel, and we will also understand the conceptual difference between arbitration, conciliation, an alternate name for mediation, and adjudication. That is more for conceptual understanding and does not find a place or reference in the statute. And we will see the conciliation or adjudication of dispute, how the disputes are adjudicated, the manner of adjudication. And we will also see the function of CIRM with the recent statistics as available in the latest annual report which they have uploaded in the public domain. And we will conclude today's session with a case law on the subject matter. Today's discussions draws reference to three key relevant terms. Appropriate government. Of course, appropriate government we have already discussed in our previous session, but just for our reference, this appropriate government, if it is central government, it is an industrial establishment or undertaking which is carried on by or under the authority of central government or established under a central act or central public sector undertaking. Or if it is going to be state government, which is the appropriate government, then the establishment or undertaking, including the state public sector undertaking, is controlled by the state government, as the name implies. Award means determination of industrial dispute, and this award could be a settlement in the form of interim award or final award. And settlement, as the name implies, is the understanding or arrangement between the parties in the course of the conciliation proceeding, and it also includes a written agreement or arrangement between the parties. Parties here refers to, of course, your workman and the employer, and which is the consensus arrived at between the parties otherwise than in the course of conciliation proceeding. So not necessarily that only in the form of conciliation proceeding they arrive at a determined conclusion. Even otherwise, if they enter into an understanding, then that settlement shall be signed by both the parties so that there is no further dispute or argument on the subject, and copy of this particular agreement between the parties shall be sent to an officer who is authorized in this behalf by the appropriate government, and it shall also be sent to the conciliation officer since he was not forming part of the dispute mechanism. Chapter 5, which is notice of change. In the first week, we discussed about the key definitions and the bipartite forums, that is your works committee, grievance redressal committee, and then we continued with chapter 3, being your trade union. We also discussed of the new concept which is introduced in the code, which was not there in the erstwhile provision, that is your negotiating union or negotiating council. And then we continued with the effects of registration, non-registration of trade union, and also various arrangements, including the amalgamation, name change, or dissolution of trade union. And today we are going to continue with the chapter 5, which is the change in the condition of service. Any change in the condition of service as attributed in your third schedule, the employer's responsibility shall be to give a notice of such change to the worker, because he should not be left to a surprise. Or within 21 days of giving such notice, then this particular change shall be given effect to only after this particular time gap of 21 days. And no requirement of notice is required to be made if there is a settlement or award, because there is an understanding between the parties or the worker affected to whom certain rules or regulations apply. These rules are quite similar to the rules which we discussed in our previous session as well. All your civil services rules, your Indian Railways rules, and the fundamental services rules, because there are specific statutes which govern these provisions and also which protect the interest of workers. An emergency situation for any change in shift or order of appropriate government. Friends, for our academic interest, first two are as written from your old act, but the last two provisions are the new provisions as provided in the IRC. And exemption, however, appropriate government is again given the prerogative right to exempt any class of industrial establishment by way of an order, which is through an official gazette published by way of notification, from the applicability of this particular provision, which is your notice of change, and giving effect to this particular change. When this shall be given effect for certain establishments, in the interest of the establishment, appropriate government may grant exemption. Third schedule provides the matters for which notice shall be given. The key aspect for which a workman is employed in any organization is to draw wages. So wages, its period, the periodicity, or how often the payment is made. So the mode of payment, everything shall be predetermined and clearly provided to the workman. And if there is going to be any change, then this shall certainly be communicated to the worker. And contribution for PF, Provident Fund, or pension, or any of the retirement benefits which are enshrined to this particular worker, or compensatory or any other special allowances for the employee, working hours. And if there is going to be any change, say for example, due to corona, a lot of people were working from home, and to manage this particular productivity and the time lag, if there is going to be any shift in the working hours, and there is going to be extension of working hours, and the employees are mandated to work on Saturdays, Sundays, if there is going to be such change in the condition of service of employment, then certainly it shall be intimated to the worker. And rest intervals, the lunch breaks and the coffee tea breaks, whatever intervals are provided to them, if there is going to be any change, the same shall be communicated well in advance. Leave, the leave entitlement, working shift, except standing order. So here there is an exception to standing order, which means if your standing order, which we discussed in chapter 4 last week, if there is going to be a model standing order which is well displayed in your establishment, and this clearly provides for all the working conditions and rules, which also includes your shift, if that clearly provides for the working shift, then that change also, if it is factored therein, then specifically notice need not be provided. Grade classification. So the employees, if they are in grade A, B, C, what are the management grades and what are the attributes for each management grade? What are the key skill sets which are required and how these grades are classified? That has to be, if there is going to be any shift or change from what was already communicated by the organization, the same shall be certainly intimated. Withdrawal of any customary concession or privilege. For example, the transport facility was provided by the company, but due to the financial constraint, if the company is going to take a back seat, certainly the company has to communicate to the employees with the necessary notice timeline as prescribed. Introduction or alteration of any rules, except again if the standing order already provides for this particular alteration of rules, then it is exempted. And rationalization of plant technique, which is likely to lead to retrenchment of workers. Say, for example, there is some improved technology due to which the machines are installed which replaces the manas, in which case the retrenchment of workers caused because of this standardization of plant or improvement of the plant techniques which are deployed in your particular factory, the same shall certainly be communicated to the workers in advance so that they have necessary plans and manage their particular retrenchment in a very well professional way. And increase or reduction in the number of persons employed not occasioned by circumstances over which the employer has no control, which means barring force majeure, if there is going to be anything which is well within the control of employer, then certainly it has to be communicated to employee, no doubt. We'll move on to chapter 6, which is voluntary reference of dispute to arbitration. Friends, here again, 10A section of your Industrial Disputes Act 1947 well governs these provisions, and there are no significant amendments as provided in the code, but for the reference which was there in the old provision, there is section 10A attributing to your labor court or what's are not there here, because now you have the specific tribunal constituted, which is your Industrial Tribunal or National Industrial Tribunal, which we discussed last week. Section 44. Employer and worker can refer the existing industrial dispute or dispute that is apprehended to arbitration. They can, by way of a written agreement, refer the matter to arbitration. If the appropriate government is satisfied that the dispute involves the representation of majority, which means it is having equal representation or majority of both worker as well as the employer, then a notification may be issued leading to arbitration of this particular matter for settling the dispute. And persons who are not parties, say for example the company has 100 employees, out of which 75 employees have already signed for settling the dispute by virtue of an arbitration, but 25 employees have not acceded to this particular agreement, in which case these 25 employees could also be given an opportunity of being heard to adhere to the principle of natural justice. Here the section very clearly says that if there is going to be a strike or lockout in the industrial establishment, which is primarily because of this particular dispute, and since this particular dispute is referred to arbitration, appropriate government could also order for prohibiting that particular strike or lockout in the establishment. Say for example, employees are going for a dispute for increase in the wages, which was not provided by the employer for the past 2 years. And if there is going to be a dispute and they are agreeing to settle the matter through arbitration so that they can come to for a negotiation between both the parties and strike a balance between both the parties' expectations and settle with one particular compensation package. In which case, if the strike was announced by the employees only for increase in the payout and this particular matter is already referred to arbitration, then this particular strike or lockout could be prohibited by appropriate government. More for the industrial establishment to continue its activities and pursue its operations. And representation before the arbitrator by negotiating union, council, trade union or workers representatives. If the dispute relates to termination of worker, then the concerned worker is mandatorily required to be a party to this particular contract dispute. Arbitration Act in this particular instance shall not apply. Chapter 7 talks about your mechanism for resolution of alternate disputes. Here comes your conciliation. Here again, you already had this particular provision of conciliation officer, board of conciliation in your section 5, and also the relevant provisions were as contained in your old act. However, there are certain modifications made in the new code with reference to your tribunal, the terms of employment, salary, allowance and such other matters which will be decided by the appropriate government. So first, the conciliation officer, appropriate government can appoint this officer and constitute this tribunal, be it your industrial tribunal or national industrial tribunal, with judicial and administrative members. Their terms including salary, allowance shall be as decided by the appropriate government, and the appointment of members made by this government shall be final and conclusive. And decision shall be based on the consensus of the members. If the members have divergent view, then the decision taken by the appropriate government shall prevail. And these officers and tribunals shall have same power as the power of civil court as provided in your Code of Civil Procedure and also under your Indian Penal Code, which means the examination of both or production of documents on evidence and such other matter as provided in your CPC shall equally apply to this particular power of tribunal and conciliation officers. Now let's understand the conceptual difference between arbitration, conciliation and adjudication. Arbitration is a process by which the parties agree to refer the dispute to a neutral third party. Neutral third party means a person who is unbiased and who is an independent party. He is thus called an arbitrator. In arbitration, the arbitrator gives his judgment on a dispute. So the matter which is centric to the dispute shall be adjudged by this particular arbitrator. Conciliation means a reconciliation of difference between persons. Alternatively, we call it as mediation also, where the representatives of workers and employers are brought together before a third party who is a conciliator to arrive at a consensus. And conciliator makes the disputing parties to reach out for a decision. In the case of adjudication, with the consent or without the consent of the parties, whereas in conciliation it is with the consent of parties. That is the primary difference. In the case of adjudication, whether it is with or without the consent of the disputing parties, the dispute is referred to an independent third party. This independent third party is as applicable in arbitration also. That is very important. That's why this adjudication is generally done by the judicial forum and also that they are not interested in this particular arrangement. Now comes the grandfathering provision, the transitional provision, where if there are any cases pending in the old provision, what happens to those provisions? So before the commencement of the court, if there were any proceedings which are pending before the tribunal, be it your labor court or national industrial tribunal constituted under the erstwhile provisions of Industrial Disputes Act, it shall be transferred to the appropriate tribunal and it shall be dealt with de novo. De novo means afresh or at the stage at which it is pending. So it shall be continual proceeding from the stage where it was left before. And presiding officer who is holding the office and who satisfies the qualification of officer under the court shall for this purpose be the judicial member or administrative member as the case may be. Here comes the fairness treatment to the worker. If the tribunal provides by award reinstatement of any worker and the employer prefers any proceeding against such award, the employer shall be liable during this impending process, that is during the continuation of the proceeding, to pay the full wages including the maintenance allowance to the worker who was not employed in the establishment, because the matter has been disputed by the employer and he has referred the matter to the higher forum, be it your High Court or Supreme Court. And any money which is due to a worker from an employer under a settlement, award or your layoff, retrenchment or closure, the worker or any other person can make an application to the appropriate government seeking for the remedy arising out of this particular contractual employment arrangement, and the time period within which he shall make an application is within 1 year from the date on which the money became due. After 1 year, if he is going to make this particular representation, then sufficient cause shall be provided explaining the reason for the delay. And if there are many co-workers, they could also file a single application. So joint application is permissible. This CIRM, Central Industrial Relation Machinery, CLC, Chief Labour Commissioners Organization, is attached to your Ministry of Labour. And they are primarily for the purpose of maintaining the industrial relation, enforcement of all labour legislations and verification of Central Trade Union Organization. And if you see the key vision of this particular CIRM, it is monitoring of industrial relations in central sphere and intervention, mediation and conciliation of disputes, and intervention in the case of threatened strikes, implementation of settlements award, and enforcement of other provisions, more particularly your Industrial Disputes Act relating to your works committee, recovery of dues, layoff, retrenchment, or unfair labor practices. And while we peruse the annual report of 2018-19, the statistics shows that significant industrial disputes were handled, disposed of, and many of these strikes were averted by CIRM, and hence it is an effective official functioning mechanism is what is evident from the statistics as available in their annual report. The Ministry of Labour has provided it, and industrial disputes handled during the half year ending 2019-9823, and for the year 18-19 it was 12,427. And if you see the strikes which were averted, it is amazing to see that in 18-19 they have averted 461 strikes, and number of workers benefited is also a very good number, 1,27,577 in 18-19, and in 19 for the half year ending April to October it is 98,630. An amount of relief granted to workers was 1,323 for the whole year 18-19, and for the period from April to October it was 682 crores. We'll conclude today's session with the case law. Rajendra Bhagat and others versus Labour Court Ranchi. Here the petitioners who were permanent employees were not getting bonus, and hence they made demand to this particular company. Being displeased, the management did not allow the petitioners to attend their duties because they were not happy with this particular claim made by the permanent employees, and hence they terminated their services during March 88. A dispute was raised and the matter was referred for adjudication before the Labour Court Ranchi. The management took various pleas, including that they were only seasonal casual laborers and they were rendering services which included loading, unloading during the unseasonal work was rendered by these employees as daily casual laborers. And Labour Court on its award during March 97 confirmed that the concerned workmen were workmen as per the definition of section 2 subsection S of Industrial Dispute Act, because 2 subsection X is a very wide definition where it says means all those workmen, whether manual, skilled, unskilled, contractual, permanent workmen, and it also provides an inclusive definition and an exclusive definition. For this limited purpose of this case, it was well confirmed by the Labour Court that these permanent employees were under the ambit of workmen as per ID Act. An order of termination was not justified and it was against the principle of industrial law and violation of section 25F. Friends, what is 25F? It is your condition precedent to retrenchment. So the company or the industrial establishment has to necessarily satisfy the CPs as enshrined in 25F before they could retrench the employees, which means it clearly provides the notice to be served before retrenchment and the payment to be made, the 15-day salary for every continuous year of service or part thereof where it is going to be exceeding 6 months. And all these key conditions, the CPs, where if they are not complied before retrenching the workmen, then it is against the principle of industrial law to protect the interest of workers and also against section 25F was well laid out by Labour Court. Labour Court thus awarded reinstatement of the workers, but it declined to grant the relief of back wages, the retrospective effect of wages for the period from the date of termination till that particular date of reinstatement, effective date as provided by Labour Court. Concerned workmen, their claim was they did not perform duties and they were involved in running their beetle shop or plying rickshaw or cultivation, and out of those workers who made this particular appeal, only 2 workers were examined by the court. So these were all the contentions placed by the Labour Court. On applying the principle of no work, no pay, the Labour Court granted only reinstatement, but did not grant back wages. Thus, an appeal was made to Jharkhand High Court, and learned counsel of petitioner prayed before this High Court to make necessary correction in the cause title. This particular learned counsel was appearing on behalf of the petitioners, and he submitted that no relief should be granted to the petitioners as they were only casual workers. But High Court rightfully rejected that particular fact, that there is a clear finding by the Labour Court that the concerned workmen were permanent labourers and they were falling well within the scope of 2 years, squarely falling under the ambit of workmen. And since the termination was found to be in violation of the Act, the workmen concerned will always be deemed to be in service throughout. And once that conclusion is reached, it is irrespective of whether they are in gainful employment or not. Because the gainful employment, as the next slide clearly says, that it is only for taking care of self and the family, and hence that should not be a root cause for depriving them from payment of wages, was well pronounced in this Jharkhand High Court decision. And thus, this particular learned counsel, stating that the workmen were gainfully employed and did not perform any work, could not be taken as a defense mechanism. And the act of not performing any duty cannot be said to be on account of own violation by the petitioners, and that was mainly for sustenance that they were employed in this particular cultivation or plying rickshaw. And this particular court also took the decision of the full bench in this particular Ranchi Electric Supply Company versus Suresh Sahu, where it was held that the concept of employment requires 3 primary ingredients. What are they? Employer, employee, and the contract of employment. All these 3 ingredients were well established in this particular case, and hence the High Court made the following order during the year 2003, stating that the order of termination was contrary to the provisions of Industrial Dispute Act and also violating the provisions of 25F of ID Act. It would be deemed that the petitioners were always in service and they were continuing their particular term of employment, and since it was proved in the Labour Court Ranchi decision that they were permanent employees, the denial of this particular back wage was not proper, and writ application was thus allowed, and the portion of award which was declined, which is the grant of back wages, was set aside, and thus the award was to that extent modified that besides reinstatement, these workmen should also be entitled to back wages during this particular termination period. Friends, with this we are concluding this particular IRC code till chapter 7. We will be continuing with chapter 7 in the next session as well. Thank you very much. Take care. Happy Navratri to all of you.